Hi everyone, my name is Leili Selfi. I'm an associate professor at the University of Birjan. I'm here with Frank Pennetti, a member of ELC 2023 planning team. Hi Frank,
Hi,
welcome.
thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, glad to have you here. I have a few questions for you. Please introduce yourself and tell us how did you get involved with entrepreneurship?
Sure. My name is Frank Pennetti. I'm a librarian here at the Broward County Main Library in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I've been here for about 7 years since we started a co-working space within the library. Starting with entrepreneurship goes way back. I'm a Gen X guy, and my first experience with startups was around the first .com boom around 1999, 2000, and I got into one of those startups that you probably might have read of at the time, where they got a whole bunch of funding for a small startup, and what they were trying to do was at that time use very kind of crude versions of whatever the smartphones were at the time before they were smartphones, like Blackberries and things. The idea was to try to scan in barcodes in grocery stores to compare product information. It didn't quite work out because nobody really had a scanning device on their Palm device or BlackBerry at the time. So it was a little bit ahead of its time. But that's how I started getting first experience startups. And then traditionally, I have a traditional background in law. So I also worked as a lawyer during my career, doing different things. I've been everything from a public defender to working with foreclosure defenses. But all along, I still like tech and startups since I had that experience, a taste of it in the first .com boom. And then I eventually started working in this library around 2016 when they were creating this new free co-working space. And I was intrigued by it because it gave me a chance to use the skills that I learned both in tech and in law and business, and in helping people create their own startup, their own side hustle, or whatever term you want to use. And that's how I first got that's how I got into entrepreneurship.
That's great. That's very interesting. Frank, in your idea, how libraries can position themselves in entrepreneurship ecosystem?
First I would say that libraries have always been traditional community centers, free places where people congregate and get a taste of all kinds of free services. Libraries have always provided everything from all kinds of free media to borrow, obviously books. And as the years have gone by, especially after COVID, they started expanding and offering different types of digital services, especially remotely. And the co-working space, I would say, started to develop as people were experiencing these different services in libraries. Because libraries can provide free services, it didn't take much for libraries to realize it. Because they had all the space in the library, they could also start building out small meeting rooms, conference rooms, video conference areas, places where people can congregate to work on a business instead of just sitting and reading books. So it was kind of a natural extension of providing this as an outreach, as sort of a branch of being the local little community centers. And also just because libraries are very trusted government resources. So if they send out emails to people, obviously, people usually trust that email is a trusted resource, and they're not going to look at it as spam. And so there's a lot of credibility with libraries because, most people love libraries. So they also have that going for them. And also we found that a lot of different startup conferences and organizations are always welcome to have library representatives because we have the goodwill as libraries. It's usually pretty easy for me to ask and receive, either admittance or attend as a speaker or exhibitor at a startup conference in order to get the word out. So there's also that way that libraries can position themselves, and also just that one of the reasons we started as far as positioning ourselves as we are is that there are a lot of different commercial co-working spaces that charge for co-working spaces, and they provide some extra amenities that we don't have, PO boxes, mailing addresses, and that extra level of gourmet coffee and so forth. So we realized that we could be kind of like a freemium level of what these commercial co-working spaces were for for different people to start out at, until they grow, and then they can pay for the really nice commercial spaces. So those are some of the ways that we try to position ourselves as a library in the startup ecosystem.
Thank you. Yeah. And how your library support entrepreneurship?
Yeah, a lot of different ways. I'm just going to kind of keep glancing down at my cheat sheet here. One of the free ways, most of the free ways, as I've mentioned, in our startup space, we have some separate areas for a conference room. We have small meeting rooms that people also use as virtual offices. Some of them are regulars. They come in every day and just use it like a virtual office. We have a little hub that has a nice webcam set up that people can use for virtual meetings, Zoom meetings, so forth. There's that. We have free Wi-Fi. We also have a companion maker space, so that if people also want to explore a different floor of the library, they can try on VR headsets. They can, we have 3D printers, so they can make prototypes of whatever. If they're making a little widget as part of their startup, they can actually make a little plastic prototype of whatever their product is. They can do that. We have the Adobe suite, so they could use software that ordinarily they might not want to or have the funds to subscribe to use something like Photoshop or InDesign or Illustrator. We also support entrepreneurship by putting out a monthly newsletter. And like I said, our emails are pretty trusted, so we don't have a whole lot of people unsubscribing. And we try to be partners to other entrepreneurial organizations, and we list their events in our newsletter. So we try to help entrepreneurs, other organizations, by listing their events also. And also we have a conference room, and if somebody's giving an informational event or talk, like a mini version of a TED Talk, they can do that in our conference room, and we can actually promote it as a library event and put it in the event's newsletter, so we can support entrepreneurs that way. Let me see if I'm missing anything else. And also, I guess, personally, because I'm a librarian, we can also help people as far as like research in terms of what they might be looking for their business. Some people are looking for an industry report if they want to find out, if their product is part of a $1 billion industry, or they need stats to do an investor talk. We can dig up industry reports through our databases for them. We can create mailing lists. We subscribe to a database called Data Axle, so they can create mailing lists of potential customers and then contact them as they wish. We have partners with organizations like SCORE, which is nationwide, which provides one-on-one mentoring with retired executives. We're also a patent and research center, so if somebody's looking to get a patent or a trademark, we can provide them with resources where they can get consultations directly with the patent office online. We have ebooks through our library databases where people can check out ebooks just like regular print books. And although I can't give people direct legal advice, I'm still a licensed attorney, so I can make them aware of general legal information as far as like starting up their business in a legal sense. And also just basically just customer service. We just talk to people and try to find out what their needs are, because we've always done that as librarians. So now we just apply it to a business sense and trying to find out what people's information needs are and how to connect them with the resources they need. So those are a lot of things that we can do.
Wonderful. And it seems your library is supporting in various type of services for entrepreneurs. And could you share with us information needs and practices of entrepreneurs?
Yeah, sure. It's an interesting question because there's basically two types of needs that the entrepreneurs we serve generally have. We kind of look for the niche because we're kind of like a freemium level, the co-working space. We kind of try to find that person who's maybe has, running their startup on a very basic level, maybe out of a Starbucks where they would normally be just with their laptop trying to, create an e-commerce website to sell something, or, create the next big social media craze, or just someone who's even starting a side hustle. That person that might be a little bit harder to find, maybe they're just working out of their house and they want to not stay in their house all day and work on their startup. We look for that type of individual who's on a very ground floor level, and we try to let them know that they can come to the library with their laptop and just plug it in and get a lot of extra services that they wouldn't ordinarily have at home or in the Starbucks. So like I said, they might not quite be ready for the level of paying every month for a commercial space, but maybe they'd like something a little bit better than, sitting in the Starbucks and having all the commotion around them, or just being in their own home. So that's the first, those are the first kind of entrepreneurs and their, and the needs that they have that we serve, that demographic. And there's also another demographic of entrepreneurs, basically those that they might have an office somewhere, but maybe they don't get downtown very often, and maybe they want to just have a meeting or use our conference room to have an administrative meeting and bring some people together from around the city. Maybe they don't have a really nice conference room and maybe the little office that they have now, or maybe they don't live here and for some reason there's a lot of people in the area that they want to meet with. We can also provide that. So we give people a chance to have free one-off meetings in our conference room without having to pay $100 an hour or so if they had to, reserve a conference room otherwise in downtown Fort Lauderdale in one of the virtual office type spaces. So there's also those people too that basically just want to have one big meeting here in our co-working space. So those are kind of like the needs and practices that we have. And again, once they grow beyond us, then they can go to a commercial co-working space, or if they continue to grow, then maybe they'll be in the Chamber of Commerce and they can get extended services. But again, we're kind of like that freemium ground floor level where just the one or two people with their laptop can find a way to start to grow, and that's kind of like the audience we're always searching for to bring in.
That's wonderful to know. And Frank, as a planning member of planning team for ELC, what do you hope the ELC conference in November will accomplish?
One of the things we've been trying to really do since COVID occurred, as I guess with the issue of a lot of different community type spaces, our library took a big hit in COVID as far as our in-person attendance. So especially with our startup space, which is inherently a place where we get together closely and work together and collaborate. It's been tough for us to regain our footing as far as getting in-person attendance back. So we're always looking for ideas and that perhaps other libraries have had and utilized to try to get that foot traffic and that flow of people back into an in-person space where people are working together. Since after COVID, it became much more of a remote world, and we did change all of our programs for a while to remote, and we still do accommodate remote programs, but primarily we're still a physical space, and we're still searching for ways to try and bring people back into the library. So I'm always hoping that I can glean some more ideas from the conference and how other libraries are doing that. The other thing is essentially just I like to follow tech trends, and so I don't know whether there'll be any special sessions, but I'm kind of interested. It seems like there's always, like every 6 months now, there's a hot tech trend. It went from like metaverse to Web3, and now of course AI is the big tech trend. And everybody's searching for a way to figure out whether it will help their business or destroy it or what have you. So I'm always kind of trying to find out how much interest there is from library customers, especially as far as startups are concerned, building around that, and how libraries are either going to accommodate those interests that people have and work with them, and whether there's any kind of services that somehow perhaps we can provide to help people as those are such trendy hot things right now. Let me see if there's anything else. Those are basically the things, the two things I can think of that, I'm looking to just get ideas from as far as how other librarians and co-working spaces are dealing with and using to try and bring people in. And also just to network and find out, what kind of programs people are developing, since it is, again, a conference for libraries and startup spaces. So those are the two things that I'm particularly hoping to learn more about.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope so. Any other thoughts or experiences would you like to share?
I guess I should just leave if anyone wants to contact me. They're welcome again to contact me. Probably the easiest email address I have is just it's 3 words: creationstationbusiness@broward.org. You can also look me up as far as I'm really active on LinkedIn, but I do have one of those Italian names, so you'd have to know the spelling of my last name. It's Pennetti, and my name is Frank. So you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, or again send me an email. But yeah, I mean, basically, I like connecting with people remotely on LinkedIn, and if you are in the Fort Lauderdale area, feel free to look us up. Again, it's the Creation Station Business. If you just Google that, you'll pretty much find us on the first page of Google. So yeah, that's my contact info in a nutshell. And yeah, I'm open to all contacts.
Thank you so much, Frank, for your time and very, very valuable information that you provided us for today. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, and I look forward to participating in the conference. And thank you for spearheading this effort to gain awareness of the new effort by libraries to be startup hubs, and I appreciate it.